Attention parents and coaches. Do you wish you had a safe social media platform for your youth athletes? Fortunately for you, there's a revolutionary new app that helps with just that. Introducing Small Player, Big Play. Small Player Big Play app provides young athletes, parents, and coaches a user-friendly sports social media platform. The app allows users to connect with friends, make new friends, create groups, text, chat, and post pictures and videos of you and your teammates participating in your favorite sport or activity. To begin, users can simply download and sign up for the app using an email account. Younger users have the ability to sign up using their smartphone and a parent's email address. From there, users can begin to interact and engage with other users of the app. Small Player Big Play app also gives users the ability to live stream full games and events. You can live stream your event so that friends, family, or anyone in the world can see you in action. Users can also share posts from the app to their other social media accounts like Facebook and Twitter. What are you waiting for? Get in the game and share your love of sports with the world. Download the Small Player Big Play app today.
You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am your host, Joe Mays. Not with me, at least right now, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff. It's just me here as an introduction. We will be doing a regular show here, but I did get half of it recorded already, and we're going to be listening to an interview I did a little over a week ago with Wilson Football assistant coach, the inside linebacker coach, and high school assistant principal, Matt Bender. We talked about a lot of things. Obviously, most of those things revolve around the pandemic relating to sports restarting here in Pennsylvania and the health and safety plan that's being adopted for the athletics department. And it's actually on the docket for school board tomorrow night, and the tentative date for sports to restart at Wilson, and obviously that would include the football team, is July 1st. Again, that's all tentative. It's hopeful. We'll know much more in the next day or two. So, yeah, we're going to quickly start that interview, but first I want to address the thing on my face. If you're watching, you can see this is a prototype of the face mask that is now available on bulldoghour.com. You can go and buy one or two or three. There's adult sizes, there's kids sizes. You can get this one, this gray one that says Wilson Football and has the retro W and football logo on it. The base is gray. There's also a red one that just says Wilson Bulldogs with the bulldog on it. You can get those on bulldoghour.com. Go to the merchandise tab and get your pre-order in. And they are selling very quickly. So if you want a face mask for football or just Wilson in general, you will want to go and do that as soon as possible. And I will have a reminder of that at the end of the program. So, yeah, let's quick run through the stuff that we need to do, get done, some house cleaning, and primarily want to send a thank you to our sponsors, May's Sandwich Shop and Small Player Big Play. This is the first show that is sponsored by Small Player Big Play, the youth athletics app that you can get on Apple or the Google App Store. And we heard a video overview from them, and you'll definitely want to check them out. They are doing great things, and they could become a huge resource to this fall, because who knows what's going to happen with sports in the area and around the country. We also want to make sure that we thank our other sponsors contributing to the show over the last year. Topher's 10th and Elm Cafe, our two anonymous donors, and of course, Andy Herr. There are a variety of ways you can help us here at the Bulldog Hour. Primary among those are sponsorship and advertising, in-kind donations, spreading the word, like and share our posts on social media, and visit the website. Normally, this is where I tell you when our next show is going to be, but because of the ongoing pandemic and restrictions, I don't know when I'm going to get to conduct interviews and how that's going to happen with the coaches and players. So that'll be to be determined when our next show is, which will be episode 4 of season 6. But just stay tuned to everything, and follow us on social media, and we'll have all that information for you. Real quickly, before I start the interview with Coach Bender, here is a look at the 2020 schedule. Nothing has changed. Start at Central Dauphin, home versus Mifflin and Exeter. Go to Martin Luther King, which is an earlier start at 6:30. Go to Manheim Central. Start LL League Section 1 play at home against Penn Manor, at McCaskey, Cedar Crest, Hempfield, and then conclude the regular season at Manheim Township the day before Halloween. All right. So I think that's it for me right now. The interview is about a half an hour long, so the last 20 minutes of the show will be me going over a few things that we talk in the interview, and then once again discuss state playoff brackets and the masks. So here you go with an interview with assistant coach and assistant principal Matt Bender. Okay, so I guess first off, let's talk about the most recent guidance that's come down from the state, which they really kind of punted to the PIAA, who then said, let's let the individual districts take care of it. So
yeah, and I think you're going to see that with everything, education wise, at least. It seems as if no one really wants to make a hard and fast decision, which I think is good and bad. Obviously, when you look at the state as a whole, if you look at the north central part, very few cases up there. They're probably business as usual, and they've probably been wondering, why are we even doing all this? And then you look at us, which I'll say that we're just on the outskirts of the hotbed, if you will, right? We probably need more guidance. So I understand why they're doing it. But, it can be frustrating when you look at it through the lens of like an administrator in a school. It can be frustrating not having that guidance. But I expect the same to come out from PDE on the 15th, because they're supposed to release some formal guidance as far as opening schools and things of that nature. So it is what it is, and then we just have to figure it out. So I'm glad that they put something out there. I know that Wilson is working on a plan. I know that plan should go before the board on the 22nd of June. Which once that plan is approved according to the PIAA and guidelines, we'll be able to get back to it and practicing all sports.
Do you know if the athletic department and Drew or the other administrative personnel like yourself, did you guys know kind of the way that the state and the PIAA were leaning? Were you able to get a jump start on this? Was there already some kind of athletic safety plan in place? How did the recent declarations change how Wilson was operating?
So I would say not necessarily, because you never know what PDE or PIAA is going to do. Just as, like, I think if you reflect back when Wolf decided to put us into yellow, I think that caught everybody sort of off guard. Our cases were still increasing. We hadn't met the previous criteria that he had put in place to get to yellow, and then all of a sudden we're yellow. I think the district as a whole has been proactive in trying to come up with possible solutions or plans, but I can't say that anyone knew or expected sort of guidance coming this soon. 2 months ago, they had just told us, the PIAA, July 1, basically, which is the end of the fiscal year, or the beginning of the fiscal year for school districts, would be the first time we'd be able to get back at it. But they really hadn't released any guidance. But again, at Wilson, we have good people that are out in front of things, developing plans, solutions, possible scenarios, and things of that nature that we may need to adhere to. So, it it's not like it was going to take us, a month to come up with a plan and put it before the board. I think everyone wants to get back to some type of normalcy. We just need to make sure that we're doing it safely and protecting, everyone involved so that we don't find ourselves in like a worse place, say in like September.
Right, exactly. And the health and safety has been at the forefront for the last 3 months. And obviously, we know the school has been on top of that. And that's a huge concern for athletics because, well, not only do you want to make sure that players and coaches remain healthy and safe, but should something happen, it could be catastrophic for the season as a whole.
Right.
And that's something you have to avoid. Now, seeing the stuff that was put forward already by the PIAA, was there anything that stood out to you, or I should say, I guess, really, by the state government, anything that they said, this has to happen, everything else is up to you? Masks, numbers, water bottles,
Sure.
things like that.
Yeah, I think the one, without a doubt, the no water bottles, no sharing of water, bring your own water. The other piece that we can't forget is as long as we're in yellow, we can only have groups of 25. So, I mean, obviously, you think about our football team, we can't have our whole team. We can't have our entire coaching staff there. So we have to navigate that. Now, hopefully, within the next, 2 weeks, at some point we get to green, which then ups our number to 250. So we're fine. So that's a concern. I think just logistically, we're not going to be in the locker room. We're going to try to limit any type of congregation. A couple other takeaways I had, which we sort of already do, is, when they talked about your quarantine. They talk about like cohorts of players, which were sort of already done, by position, keeping those 6 or 8 kids sort of together. You just do the best you can, and then monitor your kids and hope, that they're honest with you. And if they are not feeling well or anything like that they don't come around. We are supposed to take temperatures. Anyone with a temperature of 100.4 is to be sent home. I'm not sure what that's going to look like yet, if there's going to be like a process, with Kiernan and reporting to the trainer, or I'm not sure.
So you mentioned Kiernan. What kind of role does the athletic trainers have in this process? Are they contributing to the development of the health and safety plan? Can you speak a little bit about that, or is it still in the development phase?
No, I guess they're still developing, but I know that the athletic trainers, given their position, will have a role in developing it in the protocols, because obviously a lot of it will have to go through them. So it's their capability, their resources, and things that they have. So I know Dom's is actually going to meet with Kiernan and Drew. I think maybe it's Monday or sometime next week, and just sort of lay out, okay, well, under these parameters, what would our practices look like? And we're going to meet on Monday as well, then as a coaching staff, to sort of hash that out. Because again, the biggest limit for us is the 25 people per gathering. So obviously how we want to attack that is going to be important. We're going to attack that with like our varsity players and try to get like 20. I mean, just in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so if we get 22 players to be able to quote unquote scrimmage, then we only are allowed 3 coaches there. Well, as you know, we have way more than 3 coaches. Yeah. So there's some questions that need to be answered as a staff for us that I think will get answered on Monday in preparation to get started, as soon as possible after that June 22nd board meeting.
Yeah, and that seemed to be the point that everyone was talking about. I saw that the board meeting had been delayed from the 15th to 22nd, which gave the athletic department and the administrators working on the health and safety plan a little bit more time to solidify it before presenting it towards the board. Now, once that is approved by the board, we had heard a tentative start date for July 1st. Is that just to give time for the individual coaching staffs, not just in football, but around the fall sports, time to develop their own plans and how they're going to institute practices and welcome players back for activities? Was there a reason between the gap between the 22nd and the July 1st?
Yeah, I think that you're right on there. Time to get the teams ready. I think it's also just being cautious. They didn't want to say, oh, the 23rd, and then have to push it back. Anytime you're dealing with dates and things of that nature, it's a lot better, I think, to put out a date and then be able to say, oh, you know what, we're ready. We can start, June 26th. Just rather than having to come back and say, oh, if we were supposed to start June 24th, and now it's like, no, guys, sorry, you can't start till July 1. So I think it's a combination of those things, Joey, and the administration making sure that we do this, but everybody wants to do it safely. We obviously don't want to open the doors, so to speak, and then next thing you know, in 2 weeks we have 3 cases.
Right. Yeah, and that would just be awful for so many different reasons, but that would be a tough thing to swallow. So hopefully this health and safety plan for the athletics department and all the returning coaches and athletes will be able to do what it's supposed to do, and everything can proceed as scheduled. I know, we're still months away from this, but have you heard anything, internally or from the PIAA, PDE, the state, about eventual protocols for the games when they start in August in terms of fan appearances or reduced rosters, anything like that?
I have not. I know that was one of your questions that you had sent me, and I haven't heard anything. And I think a lot of that is it's going to be time. It's all time sensitive, right? So I like that no one is putting out mandates this early. We're still in June. We kick off in August. The majority of the season, obviously, September on. So I think to make a decision in regards to the fans or something of that nature, attendance wise in June for contests, that begin in September is not wise at this point. So, hopefully we'll be okay by then, and be able to really have business as usual with maybe some precautions, for the players and things that we're doing now.
All right, let's shift away from health and safety, and obviously it's the most important thing. That's why I wanted to cover it first. But let's talk a little bit of how this pandemic that caused the end of the 2019-2020 school year and kind of abruptly shut down, your off-season workouts. The spring practice couldn't occur. Your voluntary summer program hasn't started. What have you and the other coaches been doing, both as a coaching staff and with your individual player groups, while you've been required to be away from each other?
Yeah, so having that first period is really nice. So Coach Palm set up a Google Classroom for those kiddos and those players. We pushed out workouts to them, things that they can do, at home without going from the place that they don't have any weights or anything of that nature. A lot of body weight type stuff and different workouts, and the kids have been doing those on their own. Some film sessions through Google Hangouts. Sending out, obviously film on Huddle, and having kids watch film from previous years. Looking into new opponents like Exeter, is a new opponent for us. So those are the things the kids have been doing. Our kids work pretty hard. We expect a lot of them. So I mean, obviously this is a setback, but we're not alone in this. As far as the state, everyone's in this position. And we just have to trust that our kids have been, grinding out there on their own. And I know that, they've been getting together here, especially in the last couple of weeks, doing some stuff in small groups on the field and things. So that's what we got to hope for. And then, when we get back at it, it'll be all hands on deck, hit the ground running, whatever cliche you want to use, but got to make up for lost time.
Oh, absolutely. And do you have an idea in hand, even before the state and the PIAA and the PDE all came up with, hey, if you develop this plan, you can come back? What was the plan before the plan? What were you thinking?
Yeah, so we started on working on adjusting our summer schedule based on 2 months ago when they said July 1. So we basically sat down and, with Coach Doms and threw out some ideas of what's this going to look like for us. And then I would say sometime in mid-May, we found out that Lebanon Valley camp was canceled. So then we knew we weren't going to camp, which obviously you get a lot of work done, as you know, in those 4 days at the camp. So one of the big differences that we have, in this second part of the summer is interactions with other teams. So we're going to have some interactions via 7-on-7, 11-on-11 with Springford, I think Muhlenberg, Warwick. Now that we're no longer playing Warwick, this upcoming season. So that's going to be a big difference. So not only are we going to have those morning workouts and lifting, but we're going to get some skill work with 7-on-7s, 11-on-11s with some other teams that try to get our kids, ready. It's not obviously game-like situations, but it's the best you can do in the summer. So
yeah, and I'm assuming this has to be addressed in the health and safety plan then as you interact with other schools. Is there other precautions that you need to take? You have to submit something to the other school, like waivers or liability insurance or anything like that?
Yep. Yeah, they'll have to work on that because as you pointed out in that return to play plan talks about those interactions, especially not as much I would think with Muhlenberg, but Springford and Warwick being in different counties. Yeah. You're probably going to need, the athletic directors are going to need to okay that. So hopefully that'll all still be allowed and permitted, because that'll be good work for us, to try to prep us and find out where we're at a little bit before that scrimmage with Peaburg. Hopefully that happens. I mean, they're in a different state, right, so yeah. There's another wrinkle, right? We're learning as we go. It's the unfortunate part, but it is what it is now. I guess some of us would say it's the new normal.
Yeah, really. What is the coach's feelings, at least initially, over the summer period leading up to the season about wearing face masks out in the heat?
As far as coaches?
Yeah,
you got to do what you got to do. If I got to wear a face mask to be there, then obviously I'm going to do it. Do I like them? No, I hate them. I hate them. But from a personal perspective, I have a son with special needs, so and he's got some respiratory issues, so he would be, an at-risk type guy. And so, I just think about that for me personally, and I'm like, well, I don't want to put him at risk. So if wearing the face mask is what we have to do to protect ourselves and others, then that's what we got to do. Hopefully, and I'm just pretty I'm a pretty animated guy on a Friday night. I'm just wondering what that's going to look like if I have to wear a face mask.
Have you gotten any custom ones made as a coaching staff? You thinking of getting some Wilson?
No, we haven't. We haven't. Me as the gear guy, I guess we should probably work on that. But my wife did just pick me up one with footballs on it. So I guess that's what I'll sport if we don't do anything.
Yeah, well, having a rotation would be nice. Have your practice mask, have your game day mask. That's probably something that we could look into, because it's definitely something that I started to think about as soon as they said, coaches are going to have to wear masks, and maybe even spectators if they're allowed in the fall. I'm thinking,
right,
people are going to probably want something to show their support. So there's probably an opportunity there for sure. Just a few more questions here. Looking at your position specifically at inside linebacker, we know there's your two guys are gone from last year. Both seniors have graduated. Avanti Lockhart, Anthony Coper were very, very strong starters for last year, and those are some huge shoes to fill. Without having a lot of in-person contact over the last 3-4 months, the entire offseason basically. What are some names that people should think of focusing on as you work this summer towards the start of the season?
Yeah, those two guys were great, for sure. They're going to be missed, and there's some big shoes to fill. Lockhart turned into probably one of the best linebackers in the league, and Coper was just that work pail guy. He came to work every day, worked hard, had that nasty in him and got things done. But with that said, we have Adrian Santana. He's going to be a senior. Now he had a fair amount of playing time last year, but at various positions. Sometimes in it a Mike linebacker, sometimes at a defensive end. So we got to find that fit for him, and looking for some senior leadership on his behalf. And then really then we dropped down to, what were sophomores last year. So you guys like Gavin, Leonard and John Ramsey, they showed some promise last year. They got better as the year, as the year progressed, which is what we're looking for. So, I would say I expect some big things from them. And and then we run it out with the other two sophomores, Jason Beckford and David Cook, see what they have. And then, of course, we got Jack Wagner. And, Jack's a pretty darn good linebacker, but he's also a pretty darn good weapon with his legs. So his role is going to be very limited. We want to keep him, as he is our kicker, obviously. And, that's a big part of our game when you got a guy that can put it in the end zone on kickoffs and know you're starting at the 20. And, he's been working pretty hard via his Twitter, following him, kicking field goals. And if he can start nailing 45-yarders at a consistent basis, that's a big weapon for us. So we have him. But again, he's going to be used sparingly. And then we have the up and coming sophomores, which, honestly, I haven't really haven't had an opportunity, obviously, to meet. Just had a couple workouts, plyometrics in the winter, before, this all broke out. So I'm anxious to see, what some of those kids have.
Yeah, it's a shame that you didn't get to spend as much time with your to-be sophomore players, your rising sophomores.
Mm-hmm.
That last year's freshman class was pretty talented. They're going to be raw, and obviously you guys haven't really had the opportunity to start molding them into the players that you want them to be. But there's a lot of talent in that upcoming sophomore class, so it'd be nice to find some young contributors, whether it's at linebacker or not,
Mm-hmm.
in the new class of players. So obviously, you're talking about you're being the gear guy and you kind of being an equipment guy. People are interested, especially in this downtime season when they're just looking for Wilson football info. Is there anything
Mm-hmm.
coming uniform related, helmet, jerseys, pants, anything that people might recognize as being different this season?
So we're going to stick with the W in the football throwback. We'll call it the throwback W on the helmet that we had last season. We're going to put that on both sides this year, and not the Bulldog. So we're going to roll with that, and we'll see how long that takes us. And then we have some new pants coming. So we're going to keep that a little bit of a surprise, but it's going to give us 3 options of pants. They're nothing crazy, but they're a little more than just our traditional all white or all red. So I'll just tell you that they can be worn both at home and away. So we're gonna mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, interesting. This is something that I didn't know about before I sent you the email. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm interested to see those in action, or whenever you're able to debut them. That'll be a really cool tweak. And like you said, for a long time, especially for the majority of the last 20 plus years, it's just been
Mm-hmm.
red and white. We had that one little like 3 or 4 year blip where the Denver Bronco uniforms were used. So that was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, for by and large, most of the time you've been at Wilson, it's just been plain red or plain white. So it'll be interesting to see what comes up. And you mentioned the vintage or the retro throwback W in football logo that debuted last year for the 75th season of the program as just kind of a callback. What was the decision, or how did the decision come up to be made to go to that full time on both sides of the helmet this year?
Yeah, so we have a lot of alum and on our staff, and then we also have an older staff, people that have been there for quite some time, and the staff just sort of liked it, and I said, why don't we let's do this next year? Let's just put it on both sides. And Dom's was, we have to get the okay from Dom's for sure, and he's like, yeah, that's fine. And so that's sort of how it happened. We had it embroidered on our coaching polos, and I was like, you know what, it's classy, it's nice, and tradition's important at Wilson, and because this was part of the uniform, we're sort of honoring that, and so we'll see. I don't know how long it'll last. Maybe just this year, and then we'll go back. We'll see what happens. Win a state title, we'll have it until forever. But
no one's gonna want to change then.
Right. So we'll see.
Well, it's interesting. The W in football logo was used for, I think, close to or around a decade, from the late '60s to the late '70s. A bulldog debuted on the helmet in '78 and had been used every single season until last year. But I mean, it was still there. It was just only on one side. So this is definitely a change. 40 plus years in the making, going back to some of those early Gursky teams, some of the strongest pre-playoff teams that Wilson's ever had. And it's interesting that that making the return. So that'll be interesting. Did you hear any negative, positive feedback from players and fans about the change last year or this year?
No, nothing negative. They liked it. If anything, there was way more positive. As far as, hey, that looks cool, or that's neat. It's different. So we're not, sort of like Penn State. We don't make a lot of changes to anything that we do, and we're not real flashy. But it was a nice way to sort of honor the past and the tradition, and just give the kids something new to look forward to.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I remember 4 years ago, before the 2016 season, when it was a big deal to move from the regular red to the chrome red. That was a big leap for Coach Doms to approve. So anytime things are being tweaked, don't expect a huge change at Wilson.
No, and it's a good point too. That new throwback W is in chrome, so it's not monotone red. It still is the red chrome. So we're keeping the new there with the old, I guess.
Yeah, very good, very good. So the last two things here for you. One is just give us your information on the coaches golf tournament. The annual Bulldog Open, 22nd year this year. It had been scheduled for a week from tomorrow, Saturday the 20th, right. But obviously with social distancing rules, that can't happen. Posted some of this on social media already, but why don't you give your sales point and the lowdown of what's going on?
Yeah, thanks for posting that. I saw that on Twitter. So again, about a month ago or whatever, golf courses were closed. So we proactively met with Cheryl in the Manor, and Doug came up with the open date of August 8th. So again, something new this year is we were going to have it on a Saturday as opposed to a Friday. Our goal there is to get some of the more, I'll say more recent alums, the 25 to 35-year-old guys, be able to get them to come back and not have to take a day off work. So it's rescheduled for August 8th, Saturday, a 1:30 start. And we're hoping that by that time we'll be okay. Obviously, if we're in the green, and we got 250 gatherings, I think we should be good. Shouldn't be a problem. But it is sort of to be determined, and it's sort of out of our hands. But we're planning for it as usual. I already have the koozies as the door prize or whatever it's called that we give out. So that's a neat gift to keep those ice cold beverages cold. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of people.
And people can slide their commemorative pint glass from last year right into the
there you go.
This year,
yep, right into the koozie.
Good to go.
So so hopefully that'll be a go, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, I know a lot of fans, former players, alumni always look forward to participating in that. It had been kind of the unofficial kickoff, at least from a fan perspective, of usually the Wilson hosted 7-on-7 was the same week as the golf tournament. They're kind of back to back, and that kind of got people excited for the football season. So unfortunately it had to be delayed to very close to the football season this year. But as long as it takes place and can help the program, because it's one of the biggest and best fundraisers of the year.
Yeah, that and hopefully it'll still be a good fundraiser for us, because you're right, it's a big one for us. As you know, it takes a lot to run a quality program that we have, and we are missing some opportunities for different fundraising activities and things. And obviously, it's going to be tough for some of our sponsors to be able to sponsor holes and things, and with all that's going on. But hopefully, the 2 months that we have, maybe the economy gets a little better. People, are feeling a little more comfortable and in a better place, and it can still be a good fundraiser for us.
Absolutely, and hopefully I can partake and participate and get some pictures up and not crash a golf cart this year. So,
yeah, you just got to be careful.
Yeah.
Can't take pictures and drive. It's just not a good idea.
I just learned that the limits of a golf cart come into full effect when you're parked on a hill. That was my biggest problem. So
yeah.
So the biggest non-pandemic, non-coronavirus related news happened about a little over a month ago, I believe, when the Lancaster Lebanon League voted to accept the remaining 13 Burke schools as associative members of the league, starting with the fall of 2022. So we still got 2 football seasons before it comes into effect. But what was your initial response to the acceptance and the expansion of the LL League as we know it?
I think it's a good thing. I think, across the board that it's going to help. It'll help us, in some sense, depending on how they configure the sections, as far as, the difficulty that you have in getting non-league games. It can be a real tough thing to do, especially if you're a successful program. And then, depending on how the league throws that, crossovers and whatnot, if you're looking for a game, week 5, like I know that happened in some of the Berks teams, it's really tough. So having a league, with the full schedule, and being able to not worry about looking for these non-league games, is a benefit. I think that this really helps the smaller schools, Joey. I think I think of Kutztown, Columbia, Octorara. There's now parity for these schools. Like their programs may now be able to stay alive and survive because now these schools and these kids are going to be playing like equitable schools. And they're not going to be going up against, larger schools with more resources as far as players, we'll say. So I think it's a good thing. I think it saves some of those smaller schools. I know there's going to be a little more travel, but at the end of the day, I think what you want good quality football, and good contests among the competitors, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, it seems that certainly from a Wilson perspective, as really the outlier just watching this happen, as being a Berks team already in the LL League, everyone was very receptive and hopeful for it when it was presented a few years ago, and then it was tabled finally to be approved now. But it seems to be a benefit, like you said, for more parity and equal level of play, especially for the smaller schools. And we look forward to that happening then in 2022. Wilson will obviously be in the largest section, grouped with many of their current LL opponents. The only really addition will be the likes of Reading, who Wilson hasn't played since, I believe, 2012.
Yeah, it's been a while.
By the time that realignment comes around, it'll have been a full decade since the Bulldogs and Red Knights have played each other. So that'll be an interesting little local rivalry renewed after a little bit of time off.
And then everybody wonders, about the Mifflin game, and I'm sure we'll figure out a way to keep Mifflin on our schedule, albeit, a Labor Day weekend, or if it ends up becoming, maybe week 10. We'll see, as it was at some point, years ago, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the things that they'll have to figure out as they announce the final section alignment, and when the way they have it set up. Teams like Wilson up in the new section 1 will have 4 non-league games, and most of those will occur at the beginning, but there'll be another, I guess, floater week at some point, and maybe that'd be a good time to put Wilson Mifflin in week 10, as they have been done for so many years. So that's
back when I started, that's where I think we played them at the end of the year.
Yeah, I know. When I was playing, that was the final game of the season in 2000, 2001, and 2002. So it'd be nice to have that. Rivalry games at the end of the year are always fun. If you can't have it last, first was always great, but then the advocation of a week 0 opponent kind of threw that up in the air. So it's nice to play Mifflin on Labor Day weekend, because I know Coach Doms likes that alumni are around, or more people make the trek back to the area if they're out of town. But playing a rival last, I think, would be the most fun, especially with something on the line. So
You bet.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think the last thing here to close out is I asked you this in the question and answer, but just what's your message to the class of 2020 and the graduating seniors, especially the football players, the athletes that had their seasons cut short or unfulfilled completely. What do you have to say to the class of 2020?
Wow. Yeah, they're a special group. They'll forever be remembered for this, and the things that they didn't get to do. But I said there in the question and answer, one of that phrase, "play every play like it's your last." It's definitely taken on a new meaning for those kids. I think that they probably have a different viewpoint, a new appreciation for the game, and for things. Some would say they had to grow up a little quick and deal with things that most 17, 18-year olds don't have to deal with, and having your season canceled and things of that nature. But again, I think our kids did it with grace and dignity. I think the lessons they've learned from this pandemic will make them stronger in the future as they go off to college, military, and the workplace. But and a lot of times, and I said this in my response, football, I think, helped prepare them with that. You face adversity, things don't go your way. Not necessarily always in control of everything, and hopefully those lessons they learned in football help carry them throughout their lives. But we're proud of them. Wish them the best in the future, and if there's anything we can ever do for them, they know. But reach out to us, and we'll do whatever we can to help them, because they're great kids, and we love them.
Well, thank you so much for the words in the interview, Coach Bender. I appreciate you and the administration, all the educators, the ability to adapt and overcome and show the resilience of the Wilson community as you got the class of 2020 and all the classes still relying on all of you, prepared for what hopefully is a normal school year starting at the end of August.
We're working on it.
Well, hopefully I'll get to see you all sometime soon, and it'll feel like a regular football season again. And just appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
You bet. Thanks, Joe. And I hope so too. I think for everyone's sake, we can get some normalcy, and sports is a great way to do that.
Absolutely. I hear it every time. At least once a day, someone at the sandwich shop talks about how much they miss sports, whether it's, local and Wilson related, or if it's just the grander scale of a professional sports. So it's something that I think people can take their mind off of the rest of things. It's a great distraction and a learning tool. So.
Yep.
All right,
Joe.
All the best to you and your family, and hopefully we can talk again real soon.
You bet. Take care. Thanks.
Right,
Appreciate it.
All right. So that was my interview recorded a little over a week ago with Wilson assistant coach and assistant high school principal Matt Bender. So appreciate him taking the time to talk with me. We addressed a lot of significant health and safety protocols, and then got to talk about the upcoming golf tournament, which is a huge fundraiser. Obviously, it was delayed. It was supposed to be yesterday, but it is now August 8th. So make sure, if you're a golfer or interested in supporting the football program, that is a great way to do it. The 22nd annual Bulldog Open golf tournament is Saturday, August 8th at Manor Golf Club. You can find information on bulldoghour.com. All right, so we also talked about the return to play, the athletics health and safety plan. Again, I'll just roll through some of that real quickly. It is being required by the state and the PIAA for all schools to have one. Wilson's plan, last I heard, and as you heard in the interview, was to be presented to the school board for approval tomorrow, Monday the 22nd, and the tentative start date is supposed to be July 1st. Of course, that could change. We will have that information as soon as there was more to say. The state, through the Departments of Health and Education, as well as the CDC, is requiring social distancing, coaches to wear face masks, individual water bottles, no communal water, and until this coming Friday, gatherings of 25 or fewer for the yellow phase, which Berks County remains in until Friday the 26th. But then we'll get to move to green, which allows schools, communities, clubs to have no more than 250 people or 50% of an interior capacity in the green phase. And it must only be people associated with the program, whether it's coaches, players, or people like athletic trainers and people like that. Family members and spectators are not allowed at practices. You just kind of have to drop off and make your way. No lingering. So those are the big takeaways. And Wilson's can be a little bit more strict. We'll find out more as that's approved and posted on the website, which is another requirement of the athletics health and safety plan. It must be posted on the school district website. All right, so last two things. Well, let's talk about the masks first. That's, I don't think, as controversial. So let's go back to the masks here, and that's the second to last thing that I'm going to talk about. So I do currently have on the other mask. This is the red, the more general Wilson-related face mask. So it says Wilson Bulldogs on a red mask with the Bulldog logo front and center. Again, this is just a prototype. It does have the ear loops, as you can see, under my headphones. We're going to probably shrink the wording and logo down a little bit to make it more centered. It covers a lot of space. It's very comfortable. It's very soft, which is great. And it's being produced here locally. So all positives when it comes to it. And I had the gray one on earlier. That was the Wilson Football one. If you would like to see that. Again, Wilson Football with the retro. Again, the logo that is now on both sides of the helmet. Whether you like that or not, I don't know. It seems like most people do. So that is the Wilson Football one. And these are both in adult sizes. And then, of course, we have the kitty ones. Tiny little face masks for your children. These have proved quite popular. Not just the one that I'm wearing, but the children's one. We're actually running low on stock right now, as they went up for pre-sale right before the show began. And if you would like one, especially if you want a children's one, don't delay. Go to bulldoghour.com and place your pre-order so you can get a face mask for your family and for kids. We may be required to wear them at sporting events this fall. We don't know. But show your support for Wilson and or the football team by getting a mask. And here's a couple of pictures for those that haven't seen it of me wearing it, and then my kids showing off the kids sizes. And that's the red one, and then here's the gray one. It looks good, very nice. And again, these will be in hand and distributed by July 10th. Local pickup only at May's Sandwich Shop, and it's gonna be good. So hopefully it can make a nice donation to the football program so that they can use that to make up for some of the lost fundraiser efforts that haven't been able to go as planned due to the coronavirus pandemic. All right, so where do we wrap up? So something maybe, I don't know if it's controversial, it's just kind of disappointing as it relates to us and the future in the playoffs. If you recall, for a number of years, over a decade, I believe, up until the 2018 and 2019 seasons, the District 3 champion was placed in the western part of the state to have to play District 7 in the state semifinals with the right to go to the state championship. Well, that changed for the past 2 years, and the Philadelphia area was forced to go out west to win that half of the state in order to play in the state championship. District 3 stayed in the east, and everything, we were all happy about that. But apparently back in January, I missed this, brackets were proposed that would change that, and they've now been approved again. And District 3 is back in the western half of the state in terms of PIAA playoffs at the 6A level. This is all Wilson specific, so District 3 6A is out west, and they will have to play the District 7 champion, possibly. If you're watching and you're looking on the screen, I have the 2020 Wilson schedule, which runs from week 0 through week 9. The regular season does. That's 10 games there. Then 3 weeks worth of District 3 playoffs round 1, which is quarterfinals in 6A, round 2, which is the semifinals, and then round 3, which is the final. So you're up to 13 games. And for the past 2 years, District 3 then had a bye. Not so anymore. They're adding a game. So now District 3 plays a 14th game against either the District 2, 4, or 6 champion in the quarterfinals. There are very few teams in those districts. In fact, Williamsport is the only 6A team in District 4. There are 4 possibilities in District 2, though none of them are historically strong, at least not recently. And then there's 3 6A teams in District 6, and one biggie jumps out there, State College. Yes. So after the District 3 champion moves on, they won't get a bye. They will get rewarded with most likely playing State College. And if you beat State College, what do you get to do? Well, now you get to move on to play the champion from either District 7, 8, or 10. There's only one 6A in District 8, Taylor Alderdiche. There's 2 in District 10, Erie or McDowell. And then there's 2 big ones in District 7, North Allegheny and Pittsburgh Central Catholic, both of which Wilson has lost to in the last decade in state semifinal games. So yeah, you have to go through State College and then most likely either North Allegheny or Pittsburgh Central Catholic just to make the state championship. And now with the way the bracket is assembled for the next 2-year cycle, the Western champion, in quotes, since District 3 is hardly in the western part of the state, now we'll have to play the District 1, 11, or 12 champ. District 1 is the likes of North Penn, Springford, the Downing Towns, Central Bucks, and Coatesville. 11 is Bethlehem Liberty, Bethlehem Freedom, Parkland, Easton. And then District 12, you have the normal St. Joe's Prep, which everyone is very familiar with. And then you have a new one this year, a just as talented and stacked program in Archbishop Wood. They belong in 5A, but because of their success in 5A, the PIAA has now bumped them up to 6A to make things more even, apparently, for everyone. It doesn't really help schools in 6A, but I'm sure 5A isn't upset with Archbishop Wood being bumped up to 6A. So whoever the District 3 champion is in 2020 will have to run a gauntlet in the playoffs and will have earned every victory that they can come by, running through the likes of State College, the District 7 champ, and then probably the District 12 champ, I would think, unless it's a down year for St. Joe's or Archbishop Wood. But that's quite the schedule. And if you'll see, a couple years ago when teams moved to week 0 and got rid of that second scrimmage, I thought the PIAA was trying to limit the number of games and get the schedule over with in early December, get these guys back into basketball courts and swimming pools so they can move on to winter sports. Well, now, middle of December is the state championship game, and for at least teams in District 3, you're now up to 16 games to win a state title. So yeah, that's fun. There's a little nugget that dropped on everyone in the last week or so with this the health plans that are being approved, but all good, all fun. So yeah. Remember, face masks are up for pre-order right now on BulldogHour.com. They will be available for pickup within the next 3 weeks, probably sooner. I'm saying July 10th just to be safe, but that is the plan. Go to BulldogHour.com to get those. Once again, thanks to our sponsors, especially Small Player Big Play app. Go to the Apple or Google app stores and download Small Player Big Play. Set up a free account and start streaming the youth athletics games that your kids are participating in. Make sure you also visit my family at May's Sandwich Shop. They've been a big sponsor of the show for 5 years now. We appreciate all that my dad and company do for us there. And looking forward to the season. Hopefully everything continues to progress in Berks County and throughout Pennsylvania. The state is one of I think just 3 that have seen their cases drop every day, or at least every week, for the past 2+ months now. So hopefully Pennsylvania can keep things going as more counties go to green this Friday, and we can hopefully get back to some part of normalcy as the summer trudges on and we head towards August and the start of fall scholastic sports. But I think that is everything that I had to talk about this evening. This wraps up our summer update. And again, I do not know when the next Bulldog Hour show will be. Episode 4 will most likely be the very end of July or early August. Just got to work out some logistics surrounding how to do interviews. So we'll tackle that problem, and just make sure you visit the website and follow us and like our posts on the social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And subscribe to the Wilson Football channel on YouTube, and you'll get notifications of when this show goes live. So for Justin Raffoff and the Wilson Football program, we appreciate you watching. Oh, if anyone can see my shirt if you're watching, got a little throwback action. This came out recently via Burke's Nostalgia. So I'm sure, hopefully, many of you know that Wilson was the Presidents or Prexies prior to 1961. And since then, we've been the Bulldogs, but this is a cool throwback shirt from Burke's Nostalgia. Very, very cool. They also have a Sinking Spring School shirt. So a little history, a little vintage action from Burke's Nostalgia. Check them out. They're on the social media, primarily Instagram, and they also have a website, burksnostalgia.com. It's very cool stuff. So check them out if you're interested. But that is everything for episode 6-3 of the Bulldog Hour. Remember, face masks, bulldoghour.com. Get them while you can. They're going quick, especially the kids' sizes. So once again, thanks for listening to the Bulldog Hour. We'll be back again probably in about 6 weeks.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.
Using Small Player Big Play app, the all-sports social media app for young athletes. Live stream events for your friends and family who can't be there. At home or at work, they can watch your streaming on their phones or on TV by using a mirroring device or AirPlay 2. Download the app from the App Store or Google Play and create an account using a valid email address. That's it. Now you can find friends, join groups, or make new ones. You can upload and watch your own content for free. Watch YouTube uploads for free. Even more streaming options are available with our subscription plans and in-app purchases. Download the app and start sharing with the world your passion for sports today.